Breaking news today. Odesa drone strike on New Year's Day allegedly carried out by Putin. Russia is facing accusations of a drone attack that occurred early on New Year's Day in the southern Ukrainian port of Odesa, resulting in the death of at least one person. The governor of the Odesa region, Ola Kuiper, announced the attack's success on the messaging app Telegram. Nonetheless, other fires broke out in residential structures across the city due to falling debris, hurting a number of people. Mayor Hennady Trukhanov of the city took a video tour of the destruction and shared it online. "Who you are when you ring in the new year sets the tone for the entire year," he wrote. Nevertheless, Ukraine will defy this trend this year by staying the course and ultimately coming out on top. At the same time, Russian officials in Donetsk have accused Kyiv of bombarding the city, which happened early on New Year's Day and killed 4 people. This back and forth follows Britain's announcement that it will step up its efforts to assist Ukraine in its fight against Russia, in response to concerns that the US would remove its backing if Donald Trump were to win the 2024 election. According to a senior Whitehall source, the European Union and the United Kingdom are eager to send additional weaponry and ammunition to the front lines in Kyiv before the presidential transition, according to reports. Britain is stepping up its efforts to assist Ukraine in its fight against Russia. This comes as concerns grow that the US would cut off funding if Donald Trump were to win the 2024 election. According to a senior Whitehall official who spoke with The Times, the European Union and the United Kingdom are eager to send further weaponry and ammunition to the front lines in Kyiv before the next presidential election, stretching Putin into 2025 and beyond. Effectively calling his bluff and testing his resolve would be the focus of 2024, according to The Insider. How did you celebrate the new year in Russia? As was the case last year, Russia's military operations in Ukraine cast a shadow over the country's traditional end-of-year festivities, leading to the cancellation of the fireworks display in concert in Moscow's Red Square. There would have been a crowd in the area regardless of the events, with some people cheering and pointing their phones at the clock that was counting down the final seconds of the year. Attack in Ukraine on New Year's Day kills 3. An officer from Russia stationed in the area claims that 3 persons were killed in the early hours of 2024 when the city of Donetsk was shelled by Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials have reported that Russia has carried out another round of airstrikes targeting several places within the country. The commander of the larger Donetsk area, Denis Pushilin, who was selected by Russia, tweeted on the Telegram messaging app that 7 persons were injured in heavy shelling by Ukrainian forces in the center of Donetsk. The city of Donetsk serves as the administrative center of this territory. The Air Force of Ukraine said that Russia has started a new airstrike overnight, aiming at the areas of Mykolaiv, Odessa, and Dnipro. Ukraine is stronger than winter and night, Zelensky assures the nation. In his New Year message, President Volodymyr Zelensky remarked that, as the fight against Russia approaches its second year, Ukraine has become stronger in the face of significant challenges, despite the limited progress of a counteroffensive initiated in June and the situation on the 1,000 km, 600-mile, front line. His sleek 20-minute video statement from his office in Kyiv barely touched on both. Additionally, he failed to address the diplomatic and political challenges of maintaining military and other forms of assistance from the US Congress and the EU. Zelensky stated that the war has equipped the Ukrainian people to endure Russian aggression and adjust to adversity, such as power outages, disruptions in industrial production, and risks to the transportation of goods. A stronger Ukraine is the year's most notable outcome and accomplishment. He remarked in his speech that the Ukrainian people had grown stronger when, in the first months of 2023, we triumphed over, without exaggeration, the most challenging winter that had ever been recorded. The moment we proved that no amount of darkness or cold could break a Ukrainian, superseding the possibility of power outages and blackouts. He asserted that the Ukrainian people could overcome obstacles such as vetoes and blockades, as well as doubt and disappointment. Vitaly Zelensky sending best wishes for the new year. In his Sunday New Year's speech, Russian President Vladimir Putin briefly touched on his conflict in Ukraine, praising his troops as heroes while mostly stressing the importance of solidarity and common resolve, in stark contrast to last year, when he stood behind somber-faced soldiers to issue a harsh cry for sacrifice in what he portrayed as a struggle for survival. This pre-recorded speech was set to air shortly before midnight across all 11 time zones in Russia. "You are our heroes, and our hearts are with you, everyone serving at a fighting position in the front lines of the struggle for justice and truth." Although this time the more conventional Kremlin walls served as the backdrop, Putin nonetheless managed to express his pride and admiration for the bravery on display. Neither Ukraine nor the special military operation, Putin's phrase for the conflict he started in February 2022 by sending Russian forces into Ukraine, were specifically mentioned. German Chancellor Angela Merkel urged her countrymen to have faith in the future despite the world's many crises and rapid pace of change in her New Year's speech. A great deal of anguish and violence. There is now much more unpredictability and harshness in our environment. The rate of change is just phenomenal, according to Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who made the statement in his prepared speech that will be aired on Sunday. War between Russia and Ukraine, which led to higher energy prices, the coronavirus outbreak, and the Israeli offensive in Gaza, were all things to which Scholz was alluding. Western coverage of the conflict in Ukraine has grown more pessimistic as the two-year mark since Vladimir Putin's invasion in February draws near. Friends of the Ukrainian people and those who defended their right to defend themselves against Mr. Putin's aggression anticipated that the Ukrainians could reclaim their stolen territory fairly swiftly and proclaim war over when the first invasion failed. Such optimism seems warranted, given the strong morale of the Ukrainian army and the dismal state of the Russian military. Despite everyone's best efforts, the Ukrainian counteroffensive failed to materialize in 2023. There has been a significant escalation in casualties and material losses, and the war has descended into a defensive standoff along well-established front lines. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is up for re-election in March, barely touched on his conflict in Ukraine in his New Year's speech on Sunday. He praised his troops as heroes, but he largely stressed the importance of unity and common resolve, in stark contrast to last year, when he stood behind somber-faced soldiers to issue a harsh cry for sacrifice in what he portrayed as a struggle for survival. This pre-recorded speech was set to air shortly before midnight across all 11 time zones in Russia. "You are our heroes, and our hearts are with you, everyone serving at a fighting position in the front lines of the struggle for justice and truth." Although this time the more conventional Kremlin walls served as the backdrop, Putin nonetheless managed to express his pride and admiration for the bravery on display. Neither Ukraine nor the special military operation, Putin's phrase for the conflict he started in February 2022 by sending Russian forces into Ukraine, were specifically mentioned. The governor of Kirovorod region in central Ukraine announced on Sunday that a Russian attack damaged power lines and a grain storage facility. The Kirovorod region is once again being targeted by enemy fire, according to Andriy Rakovich's message on the Telegram messaging service. Rakovich also mentioned that air defenses had been activated. "What the 2024 Ukrainian conflict will bring us we near the end of the year, we are once again reminded of the missed opportunity for the international community to step up and support Ukraine in its conflict with Russia. The international community's refusal to take similar action in the Black Sea to free Ukrainian grain exports from Russia's shackles has angered supporters of Ukraine, who are outraged by the swift and robust military response to threats to shipping in the Red Sea, which protects commerce there. Ukraine will continue its fight for life in 2024 because of the conditions provided by international resolve. Compared to early 2023, expectations for a significant breakthrough in the Ukrainian conflict will be lower.